Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're somewhere comfortable right now.
Definitely need to be comfortable for this one.
Yeah, maybe you're driving late at night, watching the streetlights blur by in that hypnotic
The
rhythm.
one where the world feels a little suspended.
Exactly. Or maybe you're just curled up in a favorite chair with a cup of tea that's just starting to cool down. Wherever you are, I want you to take a breath and just
Settle in.
yeah, settle in. Because today we are going to places that might make the room you're sitting in feel a little less solid.
It is certainly a session that challenges the absolute bedrock of what we consider to be real.
Oh, for sure.
It's one of those discussions that starts with physics, takes a bizarre detour through sociology and the history of warfare, and then ends up in a sort of, I don't know, a metaphysical therapy session about your living room.
Right, which we will definitely get into. We're going for a very specific vibe today, folks. Think late night campfire chat meets an advanced quantum physics class.
With a bit of humor thrown in.
It has to be relaxed, it's going to be chilling, and if we do our jobs right, a little bit funny too. Because let's be honest, the universe has a wickedly dark sense of humor sometimes.
It would have to, considering the complexity and really the irony of what we're about to unpack.
Absolutely. But before we light this fire and start poking at the actual fabric of reality, we have a tiny bit of necessary housekeeping.
The legalities.
Yes, just so everyone is completely on the same page regarding the distribution of this content. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to learn, to explore, and to really question the nature of things.
And our map for this particular exploration is very, very specific. We aren't just pulling these ideas out of the ether.
Nope.
We are opening up the archives to session 342 of the early sessions, book 8 of the Seth material.
The date of record on this one is May 17th, 1967, and this material is published by the New Awareness Network. Honestly, a massive acknowledgement is due to them for keeping these records available and intact.
Oh, absolutely. Without that level of preservation, we just wouldn't be having this conversation today. The archives are incredible.
And it's a dense session.
Very. And I think context matters a lot here. 1967 was a highly volatile year in the world.
You had the Summer of Love approaching.
Right. But also significant geopolitical tension. The Vietnam War was raging. You can almost feel that chaotic, heavy energy humming in the background of this text. It's a session that deals heavily with conflict, reality creation, and the hidden structures of the human mind.
So here's the hook for you, listeners, the learners out there. I want you to imagine a reality where a thought isn't just a fleeting thing in your head that vanishes like smoke.
Right?
Imagine a thought is what Seth calls an action event, like a literal spark.
A spark with mass.
Yeah, and that spark doesn't just disappear, it spirals out into other dimensions, creating realities you can't even see but are intimately connected to.
And it spirals inward, too. It's totally multi-directional. It's not just leaving you, it's actively changing you in the process.
Right. And here's the kicker that really grabbed me when we were prepping for this. Seth, the entity, speaking through Jane Roberts, suggests that in this framework, wars happen not because of politics or resources or bad actors.
No.
They happen because we collectively believe they must happen. We basically hallucinate them into existence.
It's a heavy thought.
And on a personal level, your probable selves, alternate versions of you, are currently dealing with the fallout of the exact thoughts you just rejected 5 minutes ago.
I know it sounds spooky, it borders on science fiction for a lot of people, but what I really love about this session is that Seth manages to connect these incredibly high-concept multiverse ideas to very practical, tangible things.
Like your messy room.
Exactly. We're going to talk about how to heal your body with your hands and how to check your own mental state just by looking at how chaotic your living room is right now.
Which is personally attacking me right now, I won't lie. But we will get to my laundry pile later. Let's start at the beginning. Segment 1. The anatomy of reality.
The foundational stuff.
Yeah. Seth opens with a statement that is it's heavy. He says all creation is constant, and physical reality is formed and maintained in mental realms.
Right, and this is the foundational thesis of the entire Seth material, really.
Yeah.
But in session 342, he gets into the actual mechanics of it.
The nuts and bolts.
Exactly. He's saying that the physical world, the chair you're sitting in, the car you're driving right now, is the end result, not the beginning.
The caboose, not the engine.
Perfect way to put it. The origin is strictly mental. She uses this phrase, sparked by psychic experiences.
And he calls these action events. Now, I need you to clarify this for the listener because when I hear action, my brain immediately goes to a movie explosion or someone running a marathon.
Sure, physical movement.
Right, but that's not what he means here, is it? We aren't talking about movement in physical space.
No, not at all. Think of action here as raw, creative energy. It's consciousness in motion. Seth explains that action continually works upon itself to create more action.
So it's self-perpetuating.
Exactly. It's like a fire that feeds on itself. Initially, this is a purely mental event, but, and here's the really key part, this action event doesn't stay mental. It affects all other events. It spirals inward and outward into all possible dimensions.
I love that image so much. A spiral. It's not a straight line from A to B. It's not linear.
Precisely. It's recursive.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets fascinating for our perception. Seth says this energy may be perceived in these dimensions in quite a different form from its original nature. He calls it camouflage.
Camouflage. Okay, let's unpack this word because usually camouflage means hiding something, like a soldier in the bushes or a chameleon blending into a leaf.
It implies deception, yeah.
Right, deception. Is the universe trying to trick us?
Not trick us, no. In this specific context, think of camouflage as translation or formatting. The energy enters a system like our physical reality. And to be perceived here, it has to put on a costume that fits the environment.
I see.
In our reality, that costume is matter. It's atoms, it's time and space.
So it's like, okay, think of a digital signal. That signal is just code. It's just raw energy. But if I run it through a radio, it comes out as sound.
Yes.
If I run that similar signal through a TV, it comes out as a picture. It's the same core energy, but the camouflage, the form it takes, completely depends on the receiver.
That is a perfect analogy. The action event is the signal. In one dimension, it might look like a color. In another, it might manifest as a sound. In ours, it looked like a physical object or a historical event.
Wow.
And Seth takes it a step further. He says, in each system, it can only be perceived according to the camouflage patterns inherent there. We are literally incapable of seeing the energy in its raw form. We only see the costume. Our physical senses are specifically designed to decode.
This leads to the part of the session that really just melted my brain, the simultaneity concept.
This is a big one.
Because if the energy is just being translated differently in different places, that implies a connection. Seth says, and I want to get this quote exactly right because it's wild. He says, this physical room and this particular moment within this room all exist simultaneously in other systems.
It totally shatters our linear view of time and space. We think I am here right now and nowhere else. We think space is exclusive.
Right, like if I'm occupying this cubic meter of air, nothing else can be here.
Exactly. But Seth is saying no. The energy that makes up you and this room is rippling through other systems right now, just wearing different camouflage.
It reminds me of those old sci-fi tropes where dimensions are just stacked on top of each other, like right here in the studio, occupying the same exact space. There could be a version of this room in a dimension where gravity works differently.
Or where time flows backward.
Yeah. And they are all happening now.
Energy is never lost, Seth reminds us. It just changes form. A thought becomes an image becomes an object. It's a constant recycling of creative power.
He actually says, in the same way that an idea may appear within your system as a thought, a mental image, a dream picture, or as a physical object, so does any action event appear in many forms.
So nothing is ever wasted.
That random daydream I had yesterday about moving to Italy, that energy went somewhere. It didn't just fizzle out into nothing.
It absolutely did.
Yeah.
It has reality. It has weight, metaphysically speaking. It is an action event that has formally entered the system.
Which segues perfectly into the collective aspect of this, because if individual thoughts are powerful enough to have existence in other dimensions, what happens when millions of people have the exact same thought?
What happens when we synchronize that output?
Exactly. This is the chilling part. This is where we leave the physics class and enter the history of human conflict. Segment 2, Mass Hallucinations and the History of War.
Hallucination is a strong word, but in a way, it really fits the mechanism Seth is describing. He discusses how individual consciousnesses are deeply connected.
We aren't islands.
No. There is an interwoven working of telepathic communications.
Which sounds lovely if we're all agreeing on peace and love and baking cookies. But we aren't always doing that, are we? We share fears just as easily as we share hopes.
Maybe even more easily.
Yeah.
Seth explains that this telepathy lends itself to mass patterns. Many individuals react to a given event or a given fear, and they combine their energy. They produce one major mass action event.
And here is the really scary variable in all of this: emotion.
Yes.
He says, such mass materializations gain tremendous emotional force.
And that force sweeps aside conflicting actions. It's like a tidal wave. If enough people believe something with enough emotional intensity, it totally overrides the smaller, quieter currents of reality. It becomes the dominant script.
And the example he uses, it's war. He doesn't sugarcoat it at all.
He does not. And this is a quote that everyone needs to really sit with. It challenges the political notion of war entirely. Seth says, if wars are considered inevitable, you see, there will be wars.
That hits so hard, because look at history, look at the news today. How often do we hear conflict is inevitable?
Or human nature is violent.
Yes. History repeats itself. We say these things like they're fundamental laws of physics, like gravity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seth is arguing that those statements aren't observations of reality at all. They are instructions for reality.
Instructions.
He says the materialization is dependent upon the thought intensity behind it. It's a massive self-fulfilling prophecy on a global scale.
We are writing the script of history in real time with our beliefs.
By believing war is human nature, we actively provide the blueprint for the energy to manifest as war.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
if we collectively believed, truly believed, with that exact same emotional intensity that peace was inevitable.
Then peace would be the physical result.
Yeah.
The mechanism itself is completely neutral. It's just energy. It's the blueprint we provide that dictates the structure it takes.
Wow.
Seth even applies this to death. He says, if death is considered the end of all, then for all practical purposes, individuals in physical life will behave as if this were indeed the case.
It's the ultimate placebo effect, but for existence itself. If you believe the show ends when the screen goes black, you act like it.
Right. You structure your entire society around it. You build your institutions based on scarcity and finality. You create a world desperate to survive because it thinks survival is literally the only game in town.
And this brings us to the flip side of that coin. If belief creates reality, what happens when you refuse to believe in something that might actually be true?
What happens when you turn the dial to off?
Exactly.
The reincarnation blind spot. This is segment 3. This part actually made me laugh a little because it's just so petty in a cosmic way.
It is.
It's almost like the universe saying, fine, have it your way.
It's highly ironic. Seth brings up the concept of reincarnation. Now, remember the context. He's speaking to an audience in the 1960s where this was a very fringe idea in the West. It wasn't mainstream at all.
Right, and he basically says, hey, just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it's not happening. But then he explains why the skeptic can't see the proof.
And it's not that the proof isn't there.
It's that they literally can't see it. This is the brilliance of his argument regarding perception. He says, if you do not accept the idea of reincarnation, this insufficient energy will keep this reality at such a low ebb that it will not sufficiently materialize as an event within your system.
Insufficient energy. So by denying it, you are actively starving the concept of the energy it needs to show itself to you.
Precisely. For the egotistical self, as Seth calls it, it becomes a non-fact. The physical senses literally will not find data to confirm it.
Our brain filters it out.
Because the belief system has told the brain it isn't relevant. It's a non-issue.
It's like, okay, let's go back to technology for a second. Imagine a guy who absolutely refuses to believe in the internet.
Okay.
He doesn't own a computer, doesn't have a smartphone, refuses to look at screens. For him, strictly speaking, the internet doesn't exist.
Right.
He can walk through a library full of people surfing the web, but his senses, his belief filter, won't let him engage with that data. He'll just see people staring at glowing boxes of light. He won't see the connection.
That is a great analogy. It's like refusing to turn on the Wi-Fi receiver on your phone and then getting mad and claiming there is no signal.
Yeah.
The belief blocks the perception. Seth is telling us that our skepticism can actually blind us to the nature of reality because we aren't supplying the psychic energy required to decode the data.
We are creating a blind spot by choice.
Exactly.
So we've got mass wars caused by belief and spiritual blindness caused by disbelief. It really highlights how much heavy lifting our minds are doing behind the scenes. But let's get to the part that really messes with your sense of self. Segment 4, the multiverse of you.
This starts with a really beautiful observation about art. Seth mentioned that a painting isn't static. It continues to create.
He says the intensity that first generated, say, a painting continues to operate. I really like that. We usually think of a painting as a finished object. It's dried paint on canvas. Done. Hanging in a museum.
But Seth says no. Every time someone looks at a painting, there is an active interchange. New thoughts, new emotions are generated. The art is alive. It is an ongoing action event.
That's fascinating.
It is. But then he pivots this concept to us, to our identity. If a painting is never finished, neither are we.
He drops his absolute bomb. He says, any given thought experienced by you is experienced by all possible you selves.
All possibly you selves. We are officially entering the territory of probable selves. The idea that your identity isn't a single line from birth to death. It's a tree with infinite branches.
So let's make this concrete for the listener. Let's say I'm standing in a deli. High stakes, I know. I have a thought. I should buy the ham sandwich. But then I think, no, I'll get the turkey. I buy the turkey. In my reality, the ham sandwich thought is just gone. It was rejected and has zero value.
But Seth says, the thought may be rejected, but there will be something to reject. That energy didn't just vanish into the ether. A probable self-phos, another version of you in a probable system, might accept that thought. They buy the ham sandwich.
That's a silly example, obviously, but scale it up. I have a thought about quitting my job and moving to Alaska.
A major life decision.
Right. I reject it. I stay here. I do this deep dive with you. But somewhere, there is a probable me who is currently packing a parka.
Yes. And Seth says they will react in their characteristic way. The experience is shared across the entire network of your identity.
Wow.
You are the main action event for your specific consciousness, but you're constantly interacting with these other layers. Your decision to not go to Alaska deeply informs the self that does, and vice versa.
It's funny to think about. I always joke about my evil twin, but maybe there's just an impulsive twin out there dealing with all the intrusive thoughts I successfully ignored today.
Seth actually says, a thought experienced by you is also experienced by your probable selves in one way or another. It implies a massive subconscious ecosystem. We think we are all alone in our heads, but we are really part of a choir of selves, all riffing on the same themes but making different choices.
Constant creativity applies to every system. That's the quote. It's comforting in a weird way. No road is truly untaken. Someone took it. It just wasn't this version of me.
It adds a tremendous richness to existence. It removes the fear of missing out, in a sense.
Right. FOMO is gone.
You didn't miss out. You just branched out. But it can be overwhelming to think about. So how do we bring this back down to earth? How do we manage this energy in our day-to-day lives?
That brings us to segment 5, practical magic. Or, as I like to call it, clean your room, save your soul.
It is the ultimate housekeeping advice. Seth gives us a diagnostic test. He says you can therefore check your inner status by observing your outer status.
He says your physical image and your environment are exterior materializations that represent your interior action events.
He's saying the world around you is a literal mirror. It's a direct readout. If your environment is chaotic, cluttered, and breaking down,
it means my mind is chaotic, cluttered, and breaking down. The pile of dishes isn't just a pile of dishes, it's a symptom.
Exactly. We so often think, I'm stressed because my house is a mess. We blame the environment. Seth would say, your house is a mess because you are stressed. The direction of causality is internal to external. The room is the camouflage for your mental state.
It's a harsh truth, but it's actionable. If you want to know how you're really doing, deep down beyond what you tell your friends, don't ask your ego. Look at your car. Look at your desk.
It's a diagnostic tool. And speaking of diagnostics, Seth moves from the environment to the body. He discusses a specific incident involving Rob Jane's husband and some physical symptoms he was having.
This was a really sweet moment in the session. Rob had given Jane a back rub a few nights prior, and Seth comments on it.
He validates it. He says, when you rubbed our friend's back the other evening, you did indeed improve his condition. But notice why. It wasn't just the physical massage. It wasn't just muscles being manipulated.
Seth says, you sent vital healing energy. The heat he felt was the result of this energy.
He connects it directly to the hands. Much of man's creativity is expressed directly through his hands. This is fascinating because we usually think of healing as a strictly medical intervention or a chemical process.
Right, pills and surgery.
But Seth is talking about a transfer of vital energy, an action event of healing passed from one person to another through touch.
It wasn't just a back rub, it was an energy transfer. And Seth points out that the physical action was just a way to confirm what was an inner experience. Again, the physical is just the camouflage for the internal reality.
Yes.
The healing happened mentally, the hands were just the delivery system.
And then there's the advice about distraction. This is something any chronic pain sufferer or anyone with anxiety might instantly recognize.
Seth notes that when Rub is distracted, engaged in work, or an exciting conversation, his symptoms completely vanish.
When Rupert is involved in activity and his mind directed elsewhere, his symptoms are greatly minimized. Note, he calls Jane Rupert. That's his name for her larger entity, but that's a rabbit hole for another day.
But the moment he stops, the moment the activity
The
ceases,
symptoms return. Seth calls it the letdown.
Yeah.
He says when he ceases activity, however, he has a tendency to activate the symptoms rather than direct his attention elsewhere.
this is crucial. It's not that the activity cured him, but that his focus shifted. When he's not focused on the pain loses its reality status.
In a way, yes. Remember, energy follows thought. If you withdraw the energy of attention from the symptom, you starve it. When you have nothing else to do, when you are bored or resting, you tend to turn that spotlight back onto the body, scanning for problems and thus recreating the symptoms.
You are literally feeding the action event of the pain.
You are.
So the cure for the letdown isn't just rest. It's an exciting conversation, an exciting inner mental activity. It's engagement.
Engagement overrides the negative pattern. It directs the action event outward instead of inward into the body's complaints. It uses the energy for creation rather than maintenance of a problem.
It's incredibly empowering. It means we aren't just victims of our bodies or our history. We are the projectors. We're the ones running the movie.
That is the core message of session 342. Whether it's a war, a messy room, or a backache, it's all feedback. It's all showing us what we are actively doing with our energy.
So we've gone from the spiraling nature of reality to the collective creation of war, the blindness of skepticism, the multiverse of probable selves, and finally, using your hands and your focus to heal.
It's a lot to process.
It is a lot, but it fits together perfectly. It's all about responsibility, not in a heavy, guilty way, but in a creative way. You are a creator. You can't turn it off. You are creating when you sleep, when you eat, when you worry.
You're doing it right now.
Even just listening to this deep dive, you're creating action events. You are taking these words and translating them into your own internal camouflage.
Exactly.
So here is our final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. We talked about the environment being a mirror. Seth says, you can therefore check your inner status by observing your outer status.
The ultimate reality check. It's the audit you cannot cheat on.
So I want you to look around you right now. Look at your dashboard, your kitchen counter, that pile of laundry in the corner you've been ignoring for 3 days.
We all have one.
If that pile of laundry is a perfect mirror of your internal state, what is it trying to tell you about your soul right now? Is it saying rest? Is it saying chaos? Or is it just saying wash me?
Probably wash me, but the metaphysical implication is entirely up to you.
Exactly. If you want to really understand the mechanics of this, you have to go to the source. We've only scratched the surface of session 342.
We highly encourage you to pick up the books. This is from the early sessions, book 8 of the Seth material. It's dense, it's challenging, but it is incredibly rewarding.
You can find them and a whole lot more by visiting the New Awareness Network. Their website is sethcenter.com/the early sessions. It's an absolute treasure trove. Go support them. They are keeping this wisdom alive for future probabilities.
It's absolutely worth a deep dive.
Absolutely. Thank you for spiraling through the dimensions with us today. Keep your thoughts interesting, keep your rooms relatively clean, and remember you're making it all up as you go along.
Quite literally.
Catch you in the next probability.